What's up, Truthers? It's Ben, and today I have to do something that doesn't bring me any pleasure, and that is talk about the final full release of the report on Ravi Zacharias that was commissioned by the RZIM team. Now, they'd had an internal investigation done by Miller and Martin. They gave them free reign to check into anything that they wanted. They were fully cooperative in this, and the report came out on February 9th, 2021. And this is the full report. They had an interim report, I believe back in December 23rd is when they released that, and I reported on that. But they have the full report now, and it appears to corroborate what was in that interim report. Apparently, it's actually worse than a lot of us thought initially. So I'm going to put the screenshots up here as I read, so that you guys can, read them if you want to, or you can just listen to me. I'm not going to read the full report. It's 12 pages in all. It's fairly concise, but I just want to read some of the more prominent sections so I can give you guys an idea of exactly what happened. Now, the title of it is Report of Independent Investigation into Sexual Misconduct of Ravi Zacharias, February 9th, 2021, by Lindsay M. Barron and William P. Eiselstein. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Miller and Martin, PLC. Now, they have a couple of different sections. The beginning is the scope of the investigation, so they kind of talk about how big their scope was. It was limited to the United States mostly. There was some investigation into overseas allegations, but they wanted to keep the scope mostly local to address what was in the Christianity Today article, which initially kicked this whole thing off. So they deal with that, and after that they have the methodology. So we engaged the Mueller Group International, a private investigation firm comprised of law enforcement, so on and so on, and they tell you how they did the investigation, how they went into it, why they did what they did, and how they conducted their investigation. So it's pretty conclusive. So in the next section, involvement in spas. So moving down, we'll start near the bottom of the page. Of the three women who we believe were sources for the Christianity Today article, which is the article that initially kicked us off, this whole investigation, only one agreed to speak with us. The information she related is included in the following section. Another declined to speak with us on the advice of her attorney. We were unable to confirm the identity of the third woman. Next, interaction with massage therapists. Although we were able to interview only one of the massage therapists anonymously, referenced in the Christianity Today article, our investigation revealed other massage therapists who corroborate her account. Several massage therapists confirm Mr. Zacharias' frequent efforts to try for more than a massage, as one therapist put it. 8 therapists reported that Mr. Zacharias would start the massage either completely nude or would remove the sheets during the massage. 6 therapists reported that he always, or almost always, had an erection during the massage. 4 therapists reported that he would either touch his genitals or asked him to touch his genitals. And 5 therapists reported that he touched or rubbed them inappropriately. Next paragraph. Some therapists pushed back on his behavior with some success. One reported that she would re-drape him if he removed the sheets, told him she was uncomfortable, and told him he would have to leave if he did not stop. One therapist responded to his attempts to rub her legs by moving his arms back onto the table, and at times even binding his arms with sheets into a sling to keep them from wandering. She refused his frequent requests to touch his genitals. Another therapist told him she did not feel comfortable and stop him when he would rub her leg up to mid-thigh and grab her waist, which was an obvious cue that he wanted more. Another therapist also refused when he asked her to go lower the massage closer to his genitals, and she admonished him on several occasions when he would start touching himself. He asked the same person to travel overseas to massage him on trips, but she was not comfortable with him and was afraid she would not be able to afford a plane ticket home if she felt the need to return early. She reported that she could see how more than a massage would have happened if their therapist did not feel comfortable speaking up and pushing back. Next paragraph. Some therapists reported even more serious and sustained sexual assault that evolved over time. 2 therapists obliged his request to masturbate him, telling one of them it was necessary because his pain was ligamental. He had several surgeries on his spine, so that was obviously his excuse for getting something that was further than a massage. While 5 women reported that he touched and grabs their legs, 2 said he eventually went beyond that with them, rubbing their breasts and genitals. One therapist further reported that she was struggling financially. Mr. Zacharias offered to help pay for her schooling and monthly living expenses, in addition to compensating her for the massages. See below in the discussion of Touch of Hope, and it's an elaboration further down. She told us that the more we saw each other, the more he became comfortable and wanted to go further. She told us she felt obligated to what he asked for because of the financial support he provided. In addition to these direct accounts, these and other witnesses claimed to know or to have heard of Zacharias Mr. Zacharias' abuse or attempted abuse of other massage therapists, but we did not credit such hearsay. Now we're going to skip on down. There is more to that. It talks about more witnesses, more things that happened there. So we're going to skip on down to the touch of hope that I mentioned a second ago. Mr. Zacharias also used his ministry to financially support some of his long-term therapists. According to a description in the notes application of one of Mr. Zacharias' phones, they found that he had 4 phones at least during this investigation. Touch of Hope was a humanitarian effort on the part of RZIM meeting short-term needs for long-term gains. We learned it was a purely discretionary fund and no clear guidelines governing how money would be granted. We did not set out to investigate Touch of Hope in depth, but in reviewing documents provided by RZIM, we noticed that a significant portion of the wire payments from that fund went to or for the benefit of 4 women, all of whom were at times Mr. Zacharias' massage therapists. Touch of Hope funds paid for 2 of these women to attend massage therapy school after they were already in the regular rotation of therapists despite their apparent lack of formal training or license. One receipt was a massage therapist he met around 2014 in Bangkok, with whom he appears to have had at least an emotional relationship, discussed in a different section. He used Touch of Hope to pay $40,000 for her to attend culinary school in the United States. Each of these 4 women received monthly support from Touch of Hope for extended periods of time. Continuing on, Mr. Zacharias spent much of the year on the road and typically had at least one male RZIM staff member travel with him. These travel assistants provided the appearance of accountability, so Mr. Zacharias could say he did not travel alone and was never alone with a woman. Indeed, all the travel assistants we interviewed say they never observed anything improper. Most of them were aware, however, that Mr. Zacharias had a massage therapist who was often with him to provide treatments during his travels. Several RZIM staff reported to us that they were concerned about Mr. Zacharias traveling with a personal masseuse, not because they feared actual impropriety, but because they feared the appearance of impropriety. A high-level RZIM staff member expressed concerns to Mr. Zacharias about it and encouraged him to stop traveling with her. In response, Mr. Zacharias grew angry and barely spoke to his staff member for a long period of time. He was effectively sent to Siberia, as another staff member recalled. Their relationship never fully recovered. The massage therapist who at times traveled with Mr. Zacharias was not the only woman from whom he received massages during his travels. Travel assistants told us that Mr. Zacharias would often retire to his room at night, and his schedule often included large chunks of time and even entire days when he was alone. His search of his phone records and text messages revealed that he would often arrange for massage treatments in his hotel room when he was likely alone. According to his text messages, at times he would meet the therapist at the hotel lobby, and at other times he would direct him to come straight to his room. On one occasion in February 2016, he slipped his room key to a massage therapist by placing it in a book, directing her to come to his room 2 minutes after she got the book from him. There is a section about Lori Ann Thompson. Now, Lori Ann Thompson, back in 2017, it kind of exploded into the news. She was a Canadian woman, and she was trying to get Ravi Zacharias and RZIM to give her $5 million as a settlement for an improper relationship that they had supposedly have. Now, Ravi ended up settling this in court, and I believe they signed a non-disclosure agreement for an undisclosed amount of money. It does mention this. They don't know exactly. I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can look at it. What came of it. We don't know exactly how much truth there is because of the non-disclosure agreement. I'm not sure where I fall on this one because it does seem kind of fishy that they were asking $5 million from him, and it does seem like they were trying to extort from him. But we don't know how culpable he was either. We also find out that Mr. Zacharias had certain words and phrases saved in his phone, and they were in Thai and Mandarin. Some of the phrases included, "I miss you so much, I want to see your face, you're beautiful, your lips are especially beautiful, and I love you, darling." So he had a couple of weird phrases saved in other languages. I'm assuming so that he would be able to communicate with people, at least in some part, without having to speak the language itself. And it says in September 2014, he exchanged emails and photographs with a woman who lived in Seoul, Korea. In 2014, he met and exchanged emails with a massage therapist who lived in Bangkok. And also, along with those emails, he had photographs with several different women. It says over 200 photographs of women much younger than himself. And like I said, there's a whole lot in here, guys, that you can read. There's 12 pages worth of it. But let me just read the conclusion. The conclusion says, our investigation was limited to Mr. Zacharias' sexual misconduct, and even as to that issue, it was not exhaustive. We acknowledge that we have not spoken to all individuals who may have relevant information to provide. We strive to balance the need for completeness with the need for expediency, and we are confident that we uncovered sufficient evidence to conclude that Mr. Zacharias engaged in sexual misconduct. I think that's probably the understatement of the year, unfortunately. It seems that there have been dozens and dozens of witnesses, along with several different emails, along with 4 to 5 different phones, with translations in different languages, Thai and Mandarin. And it seems that apparently Ravi Zacharias had women all over the world, especially in Thailand, which none of us really thought about it at the time because he would go to Thailand to write his book, supposedly. And at the time, we had really no reason to believe that anything nefarious was going on, because he often did that, and he would actually go and work, and he would write many of his books there and then come back. So it seemed like he just kind of wanted some time alone. But it appears that that wasn't the case. He spent a lot of time alone. He traveled with a personal masseuse, and anytime anybody tried to bring this up to him as an issue, he became irritated or mad at them. So I think it's safe to conclude that he is definitely guilty of sexual misconduct in many, many cases with many different women over possibly decades. And this is why so many of us have an issue with Ravi Zacharias and public apologist version of Christianity. Now, I'm not saying I haven't learned anything from Ravi. I definitely have. He is the man who is the reason that I started investigating apologetics in the first place. But what he does, or what he did, and what a lot of people in his position do, is they promote mere Christianity, right? The Frank Turk, William Lane Craig, popular apologists kind of Christianity, that C.S. Lewis idea that you just need the basics of Christianity. It's just, you don't have to worry about, theology. You don't have to worry about sin. You don't have to worry about specifics. You don't have to worry about wrath and hell and judgment. No, you just need to worry about arguments, right? You need to worry about the smallest, most minimalist argument you can use in order to get somebody to go, well, maybe Christianity. And then you kind of, inch them a little bit further towards Christianity. And then you try to get to them to that, that mere Christianity, that simple, the smallest amount of Christian they can be without being offensive to them. And looking back, I didn't think about it much at the time, but I never really saw Ravi engaging anything in apologetics in an area outside of what I would consider philosophical apologetics, right? Maybe arguments for the existence of God, arguments, against secularism or materialistic naturalism. But he never really talked about theology or sin or punishment. He didn't really talk about the Bible a whole lot at all, actually. And I see a lot of apologists doing that. And the danger in this is that if you don't believe that theology matters and you don't have a full-fledged comprehension of sin and shame and its punishment and God's holiness, then things like this can happen. Now, as much as Ravi is to blame, so are his staff members. It seems extremely inappropriate to me that they allowed his behavior to go on like this, to travel with a personal masseuse. That seems very shocking to me, that they would even allow that to go on. And I don't know if, it's obviously in the article it mentions that he became very angry with somebody who brought that up to him, but that person must not have been the only person. And even if he got angry, they shouldn't have let him get away with it. Just because he's Ravi Zacharias doesn't mean he's free from any accountability. Nobody is. And I think that this should serve as a lesson to people who are looking to get into apologetics or getting into speaking, or people who, in general, everyday life, don't really take God's wrath seriously. Now, unfortunately, Ravi is taking God's wrath very seriously now. And I've seen people kind of make some type of a comparison between him and David, possibly. I don't think that's a valid comparison. Yes, David was obviously a sinful man who engaged in several sexual misconduct interactions, but Ravi isn't recorded in the scripture. We don't see the kind of love for God and the abhorrent hatred of his own sin. We don't see that kind of a thing coming from Ravi. It was all very hidden, all very under the surface. We never saw anything from him. And if all this is true, and it does seem to be the case, then Ravi is probably in torment right now. Which doesn't bring me any delight to say, but unfortunately that's probably where he is. And he will always be there. He will never escape. He will never leave. It should be very sobering for us all. So, maybe if you're a budding apologist and you're looking to get into the ministry, maybe spend some time looking outside of just the realm of apologetics and apologetic arguments, and spend some time looking at God's holiness. Maybe look at sin and wrath and punishment and lust and all of the other parts of the Bible that seem to fall to the wayside in apologetics in order to find some kind of a common ground with the carnal man. We don't have common ground with carnal men. We are separated because we are holy. We are saints in God's kingdom. We're not looking to find common ground with them. We're not looking to be like them so that we can get them to kind of vaguely come to our side to find allies. That's not our purpose, and that's not our intent. Guard your minds, but guard your hearts also. Well, I hope this has helped, guys. Yeah, like I said, it doesn't bring me joy to read this report, but as Christians, we don't really have a choice to cover things up like this. When we see other people doing it, I remember when Lawrence Krauss was convicted of sexually inappropriate behavior, and how that was in the news, and people, were all over him, jumping all over him, saying, "Oh, of course, look at this guy, he's, a sinner and all this." And then once Ravi does it, we don't get to go, "Oh, well, yeah, it was Ravi's kind of like David, we don't need to hate on him." No, he deserves to be brought to light, and it's not as hating on him in his memory, but for a man who was so influential in the culture, and who was so relevant to Christianity and apologetics especially, his deeds need to be brought to light. It's just the way it is. It's very unfortunate, but we can't hide it. So let this be a warning to everybody out there. Whether you're William Lane Craig, or Frank Turek, or James White, or if you're Ben Hansel. Nobody's free of the lust of sin. Guard yourselves, guard your hearts, and don't fall into this trap. Use this as a warning. Hope this helps, guys. Let me know in the comments down below. Well, I don't really know what to say in the comments down below. Maybe let me know how you feel about this, how you feel about Ravi, what you think about this investigation. Try to keep it PG if you can. I don't want any, profanity or fighting in the comments. I know this is a very volatile subject, but maybe try to keep it PG. Like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want more like this. Thanks for popping by, guys. See you.